Welcome to the best gambling show on the internet. Big win by the Philadelphia Eagles. I hope everyone enjoyed the game, man. And I'll start with my take. I was shocked that the Eagles blew them out. Like, listen, I understand that the Eagles have elements in place, game flow. If they get ahead, kind of like the Minnesota Vikings, they're a completely different team and they turn into a train. But even I was shocked about this. Like, it's not like we saw a lot of Chiefs turnovers. I don't think we saw any. Oh, well, actually, we did see the first two interceptions. My bad on that. Some of the crazy turnovers we saw this postseason really didn't happen. I felt like the Eagles defense forced them to make errors. And the Hurts MVP long shot, I can't even beat my chest too much about it because pre-show, not trying to steal your talking point, but Josh Sweat was phenomenal. Smith was phenomenal. I was glad to see Sweat get some stats finally because he's been having great pass rushes this whole year. And he's barely got any credit because the stats don't go up on the stat sheet. And yeah, Mike, I'll start there. And Hurts played well; he deserved it. But I can't say like I'm chest beating because I saw a different game flow. Like I saw a game flow where this would be back and forth. This would be tied in the fourth quarter, and Hurts would need to throw it, and then inevitably the Chiefs would just steal the game, even though I picked the Eagles. Because at a certain point, we got to just go better teams with the. We got to go with the better team when we analyze these Chiefs games, as hard as it is. But man, and I'll just finish before I let you go on. It was great. It was great to finally see the Chiefs luck run out because this is kind of
Yes.
what happened to the Steelers. I'll let you go.
Yes. I think the average NFL fan is very satisfied with how this game turned out. You know, I know it's a shock to a lot of people, but people forget the Chiefs squeaked by a lot of average teams this year, like consistently. I'm talking 10, 12 wins off of field goals that they got the last second. And that's a good quality to have if you're a team going for a Super Bowl. You want to win those close games, but it also kind of says something about maybe how good your team is. If you're beating the Raiders by 2, how are you going to handle a juggernaut like Philly? And tonight we saw the answer to that. As far to your second part, I felt like the thing that really helped us with the Jalen Hurts MVP was just how good the odds were on that. I think going in, it was pretty clear there was a game script where where the Chiefs sell out to stop Saquon, and then Hurts has to throw a lot and gets a lot of good matchups that enable him to put up numbers. And that's kind of exactly what happened, man. Hurts was awesome this game. I thought he was very efficient. That he made the one mistake, but other than that, he was dang near perfect. Yeah, great Super Bowl overall. I really enjoyed this one.
And Mike, I'm not trying to beat my chest about the Hurts MVP shout I had, but I didn't talk to you before the game, but I'm kind of sure you agreed with me that the Chiefs would put up a hell of a competitive performance against Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
I didn't think they would stop him like this. Okay. I wasn't saying anything like that, or there would have been the under Saquon in the props, but I really felt like the Chiefs defense would play very competitive against them. And then it would be Hurts game script. And Mike, we got to find something else to use other than game script because me complaining about the Chiefs has led people to get on like the NFL scripted stuff. And that wasn't even my take with us complaining about the Chiefs games. Because, like I said, I wasn't just glazing the refs because, my life kind of depends on this league being semi-dependable to bet on. But I felt like they were phenomenal this year. And it was just really Chiefs games where it got sketchy. Like,
I'll tell you what, when they called that offensive pass interference in the first quarter, I was like, here we go. Like, this is going to be some BS to screw the Eagles out of this. Because that was such a bad call.
No, I know, Mike, and it's to the point where I don't even get mad. Like, it's been a buildup, Like, you remember when we had that we moved that Panthers spread from like it was like 12-11, and we moved it to plus 6.5.
Yep.
And the Panthers should have won the game. And like there hasn't even been a rage incident, and then it all snapped in the Texans game for me. But and now when I should see these Chiefs calls, I do like a Chris Collinsworth little like, "Rah!" Like I should start doing that because it's like just so normal, and I'm kind of finding it funny at a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
That's why on Patreon I just put up the Eagles team total, because let's just focus on that and take it away from the spread and take it out of his hands, because also he's really fucking good too. Him and Andy Reid are really fucking good. So there's also that added element, which makes it even worse. So it was fun, man.
That Eagles team total bet was great because it hit by halftime.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know about you, but that's where I put most of my money. So the fact that I could just bet on that and then know by halftime that I was good for the night, like, that was great. That was phenomenal.
Yeah, Mike, that was the only one I posted on Patreon. The parlay really should have hit. It's just Goddard. It was
Goddard sold.
It was a weird game flow. Like that was like a plus 2,000. Like that was a good heave, but don't the plus 2,000s always come down to the last leg? Not that I put him in a lot, but
right.
That's one thing we got to do more next year. It's also like with us starting to do the long shots where we started to get crazy, like saying like the Panthers beat the Giants. We just have to pick a game script we see happening and then build the parlay from there. That's one thing I think we can do next year.
Although I think it's also games that no one is going to watch or bet on.
Yeah.
Because like if you notice, these spreads and these team totals got a lot harder when the playoffs rolled around.
Yeah,
and so, but it was
also been easier to bet on. Every one he picked up had a team total hit, which is just ironic given what transpired the last 2 weeks leading up.
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah. It's insane. But you're right, they do get harder. And but that's also something I flipped it in. Like I started talking about them on the Discord during the year, but then you get away from it because you get so much fucking stimulation with the 13, 14, 15 games a weekend. It's just something we need to focus on, and something to throw in parlays as well if we see a game script coming.
For sure, yeah. It's definitely something to take note of for next year.
And yeah, man, and one thing you were saying about the Chiefs, and one reason why this team has left us so befuddled this year, remember before their first Houston Texans matchup, and you were even talking about the Chiefs' offensive line was kind of struggling against your Panthers, not saying the Panthers whipped their ass or anything up front, but we were mentioning other games where this offensive line just isn't reliable. Like especially at the bookends, both left tackle and right tackle. And then we saw that first Texans game. I'm not talking about the one in the playoffs, but the first one. And we didn't see Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter do anything. But finally we saw this Chiefs offensive line just be what they are. They've been below average and they have to regroup. This is I don't want to say they're a bad team, but this is a bad team outside of like Chris Jones, Pat Mahomes, Andy Reid.
I wouldn't say it's a bad team, but it's not a 15-win team. Like this is a team that was much closer to like 10-7, 9-8, 11-6 than it was to 15-2. And that was always my argument.
It's like an above average football team with like a great quarterback and a great coach, essentially.
Right. They just seem to always find ways to mask their weaknesses. And tonight it just all fell apart for them.
Let me ask you a question. So Hurts was pretty poor this year. Let's be honest. Okay. Even though me glazing him this week, he's been pretty poor this year. So I guess here's my question to you. I was thinking about this. Do you think we might be entering an era? I know they're raising the cap and I know it's going to keep increasing and there's teams who know how to manage it, unlike the New Orleans Saints. Okay. But even with that being said, do you think maybe it's an era where we get like the mid above average quarterback and maybe that's a better way to build?
It's a tough debate. I think if you have a top 5 guy, you absolutely need to pay him. But I think if you're a team with like a top 15 quarterback, like I don't think you should be paying quarterbacks like Tua or like
Jared Goff.
yes, like Jared Goff I think is actually pretty solid. But you know,
No,
he's
but
another example.
he was kind of
You
like
you
a
know what I'm
top
saying?
five.
Like guys like Trevor Lawrence, Jordan Love, Tua, guys that you know are not going to be ever be top 5 quarterbacks, you should not be paying them like that. That's my take on it because it just limits your ability to build the roster in such a capacity that it hampers your team for years down the line. So I've always been against, like, I love Bryce Young, but if Bryce Young doesn't play like a top 10 quarterback, you know, over the next couple years consistently, I'm not going to want to give him a record setting deal. And that's a fact. I'll trade him for 2 firsts and call it a day. Like, and that's cool. I'll live with that. And I think a great example of a team that was able to do that this year, and kind of like what you're saying, is the Vikings. You know, they elected to move away from Kirk Cousins and say, hey, we're not going to pay this dude 50 million a year and give into the pressure of, you know, giving this guy a big contract. And look what they did. They still won 14 games with Sam Darnold and, you know, could have had a very decent run in the playoffs.
That's what's interesting about it, man. And that's one thing we're going to see. And I completely agree with you about people like Tua and Trevor Lawrence. Even though I would much rather watch them play than a lot of guys in the league. And I think maybe people might overreact with Darnold with recency bias with
Right.
with that Lions game and the Rams game. But I mean, at a certain point, sometimes you got to chalk shit up to variance. And I know Sam Darnold, like, you don't want him in the red zone making those tough throws, but you know, it would be nice to have a full team like of dogs instead of just having 4 good players like the Chiefs have.
Yeah.
You would think. But anyways, let's get to the game. Like, yeah, and like chat's pretty much saying the Eagles defense win the game, and I can't disagree. And that's I'll just circle back to the thing about Hurts being MVP. Of course, deserved, but you can't give it to the full defensive line. Like,
If it was up to me, I would have given it to Josh Sweat.
because he was like that bull rush he put on Thule,
Right.
Joe Tooney, when Pat threw that interception. Like, that's not going to go in the stat sheet. And that's one thing I've been talking about this whole year with Josh Sweat. And one time when I just went to like fact check one of my videos, because I talked about him a lot, like week 11. I went and fact checked the video, and he had like only 2 sacks at the time. And I've never seen a guy dominate so much and get so little stats. Like,
Yeah.
unlucky.
Especially at defensive end. Like defensive tackle, you see it pretty often, but defensive end is not a position where you normally see that. And I think he's gonna get a bag in free agency now.
He deserves it.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
and I think the Eagles defense line will be fucking good. They got a bunch of young bulls like in that rotation. So
Yeah.
you know, I wish some other teams in this league would maybe draft defensive linemen at a decent rate. But
yeah, Zach Bond also I thought played a phenomenal game. Not MVP worthy, but he had a big role. He had a big role in containing Kelsey over the middle. And I think that kind of threw off Mahomes for a lot of the game at times, not having that safety outlet. And then I thought he was also another guy who was, you know, between spying Mahomes and getting pressure on the very occasional blitz. I don't know what the commentators were talking about, saying there were no blitzes. I saw at least like 2 or 3 throughout the entire game. With
yeah,
Zach Bond.
I felt like Kevin Burkhardt was poor tonight. Like, he's normally very good. I just felt like he was lost in the lights. Like, I know it's the Super Bowl. I know there's a lot of stimulation going on, but Brady actually wasn't the problem tonight.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like Brady was good. Like, I just felt like Kevin Burkhardt, like he was just like lacking. Like, I even said on Instagram, I'm like, Tom Brady actually made a funny joke about Kevin Hart, and Kevin Burkhardt, it didn't ring in his mind that Kevin Hart's short, and like here comes a response pushing on that. Like, you know.
He also had a great back and forth with Mike Piera toward the end of the game. That was entertaining.
Yeah, no, and he's been getting better, and like for some reason he's turned into, you know, once the dog pile starts, Mike, it's easier to go on the top of the dog pile with the Hulk Hogan leg slam. I've just never been a dog pile guy. And I wonder what people are going to dog pile on the Chiefs about tonight. And I guess I would just say that, like, this was a long time in the making.
This was
For them to
overdue.
even get to the Super Bowl this way, the way they've played this year was phenomenal. Like I
Right.
can't believe they even did it, even with the help.
Yeah. And well, to be honest, they had a very easy road to the Super Bowl, all things considered. The Texans, like, okay, they beat the Chargers, but that was a team that neither of us believed in long term going into the playoffs. And then the Bills, the Bills just can't figure them out. So, I mean, really, the Bills were really the only quality team they beat to get to the Super Bowl this year. Having that first round bye, I think, really helped them out.
And I felt like the Ravens were a much better team on paper than the
Yeah,
Buffalo Bills. Like
I agree.
and like that's credit to Josh Allen. And also, Mike, did you see? I didn't know it would be. I know, like, okay. I know the internet's crazy. And I get it. And like, it's better to be crazy on the internet. Like your Panthers page, like you built up a good following and you're not crazy or insane. But if you want to get insane, you would get so much engagement. But anyways, did you see people getting their panties tight debating this Lamar versus Josh Allen MVP thing? And I'll let you have your take on it. I just want to say, guys, Mina Kimes has a vote for the MVP.
Oh my
And
gosh, dude.
and you
Yeah,
guys are on
whoever
the internet
votes.
like fighting about it, like going back and forth, like it's life or death. Like it's steak or lobster, fellas. Like, oh, we win either way.
Dan Orlovsky also has a vote, I believe, and he apparently put some of his votes in like months in advance.
Oh,
Like, I really, the NFL needs to redo how they give out awards. I also saw that Josh Allen got the Art Rooney Sportsmanship Award of the Year, and he talks more shit as a quarterback maybe than anyone else in the league.
yeah, and at least he deserves to talk shit because he runs people over.
Yeah, and that's
Um,
cool. Just don't give
but
him a sportsmanship award for it.
I know, would they give Cam Newton one?
Yeah,
Like,
like that's what I'm saying. Like you don't need to give it. You don't need to give just random awards to people. But I have a question for you, or well, not really a question, but your comment on this. Um, After tonight, I don't. This is the second Super Bowl we've seen the Chiefs kind of melt down in. I don't ever want to hear Mahomes' name in the GOAT conversation with Tom Brady again
no, I
because
don't want to hear.
he played like crap tonight. Above and granted, I know the situation wasn't great. I know his line completely sold, but Mahomes did not play a good game. Tom Brady
Well,
has never had a performance this bad in the Super Bowl.
well,
Um,
Mike, you've been a running joke on this channel for years, but you came on week 5, week 6, and you said, yo, listen, I'm not making a value claim here. I'm paraphrasing what you said, but you're like, I'm not making a value claim here. But guys, you should go look at Pat Mahomes' stats, and they're pretty much equal to Daniel Jones.
yeah.
And you weren't, I know people are going to overreact to that, but it was a really sloppy year from him. And man, and I don't know if D Hop's done. I know you had the same opinion as me when he got traded there. I was like, oh man, we're going to see the Chiefs take off, and it never really happened. Hollywood Brown comes back, and you think they're going to take off, and nothing really happens. And even Worthy, like he got a lot better as the season goes
Yeah.
on, but nothing really happened with the passing game.
Well, I
I,
think if you're a Chiefs fan, there are two things you should be optimistic for about this passing attack. Number one, like you said, Xavier Worthy looked awesome tonight. For some reason, this was the first time, like for over the last 2 months, they've really opened up the deep passing game. And Worthy seemed to be more than ready to take on that role. So I'd be curious to see how this connection builds on next year. And then the second thing is, listen, Rashee Rice went down like week 3 or 4, and he was looking like a dominant number one receiver when he went down. So if you get him back in this lineup and you have a good pairing with him and Worthy, like I think that's something to build on. Even if Kelsey retires this offseason, like that's a solid group that I think you can have a foundation with.
I do wonder if Kelsey's done. Um, I don't know if I believe that, but I don't know. I'm curious. I'm curious if he's going to retire because I don't know, man. I don't want to say he lost a step or anything because that passing offense was so out of rhythm the whole year. So that's why it's even hard for me to pass like a judgment on D Hop. It really is hard.
Yeah.
Um, D Hop's probably done though. Like I would definitely throw the chips in on him just being done and a non-factor. But Travis Kelsey, I don't know, man. I don't know. He's just had that game against Houston, and
Yeah.
there haven't been that many moments this year from him. I mean, there's been good vibes at times, but there haven't been those dominant moments where he just takes over a game where he gets like one of those 11, 12 catches games where
Hmm.
he's fucking unstoppable,
When I don't think he's the same threat in the red zone as he used to be either.
which is surprising
Yeah. Eh,
because which is surprising.
mhm.
And maybe he's just not interested anymore. Like, I'm not trying to make it like a view episode, like, because I don't know, maybe he has fucking injury that's been bothering him the whole year, like a bad hip injury, and he's not obviously going to miss games for it. But there has to be something off because him Mahomes, it was a really mid year from Pat Mahomes by his standards. Like, it
Yeah.
was his worst year. That's what I'm saying. That's what's crazy about it.
He picked it up towards the end and started to look like the MVP that we know. But yeah, he definitely took a good 2 months to get into a groove this year. And then he played like crap again tonight. So how do you think the Chiefs like rebound from this? Like what do they need to do this offseason to fix this?
I would say offensive line
Yeah, that I
because
agree.
like you said, Rasheed Rice coming back has to help.
Right.
And it's hard to put like a number on him, like how good we think he's gonna be. He might be better than we think after watching some of these guys go out there and play receiver this year. So he might be better than we think. So I would say Chiefs should just focus on the offensive line and keep
Yeah.
drafting guys in the secondary because those safeties and corners, the outside of McDuffie, that secondary is ass, Mike. I think Mike went, but yeah, man, and but yeah, like when I watched the game tonight, and like you guys are touching on in the chat, it's the 4-man rush. Okay, you're back. You're back, Mike.
Yeah, I got a call, so I had to tap out for a second.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, but and I would say like offensive line and draft secondary guys. But they might need to be more active in the free agency market. I think they might get desperate here, which desperate times call for desperate measures. The D Hop trade was outside of their DNA, I thought. But sometimes it's
No,
useful
yeah,
to go
I'm
out.
with you. It was definitely
Go on, go on.
it was definitely a move of desperation, I felt like.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and with the Eagles, and everyone's mentioning how young the team is, like I think they're going to be back and be an absolute train next year. So, like you said, they're probably going to lose Sweat in free agency, but they got so many dogs up front. And Vic Fangio back another year with that secondary. Cooper DeJean,
Yeah. Well, here's the
man.
thing about the Eagles. Listen, I mean, we shouldn't be talking about the Eagles and what they're going to look like next year. Let them have their night. I'm sure the city of Philadelphia is in shambles or is going to be in shambles tomorrow morning. But as for next year, I think the things you're worried about for the Eagles, one is Saquon Barkley going to be able to produce a year like this again? Is he going to be able to stay healthy? Um, and number two, how good is that Commanders team going to be? Because I feel like they've only brushed the surface of what their potential looks like. They did not plan coming into the year that they were going to go to the NFC Championship. That was not in the cards for them, and they still did it with a very average roster. What is it going to
No, the
look
way
like now
they
that you have with a full offseason to build and bring in whatever weapons you want for Jane Daniels to fix that defense more? How good can this Commanders team be?
Yeah, Dan, I had an amazing night too. So I happy you got paid. And the thing and that's where I'm at. And Mike, I really felt like the Commanders. I'm not trying to bring up your Panthers. I know no one cares, especially on a night where there's like no game we need to bet on the next week. But the Commanders really approached the offseason how your Panthers should have approached the offseason, bring in cheap veterans on short contracts and just try to get some dogs at least at one on every three levels of the defense and see what can happen. Like I liked how the Commanders approached that, but like you said, they approached it to save cap space to go hard like this next year.
Next year. Yeah.
I'm curious
Mhm.
because if Hurts plays like he did this year during the regular season next year, Saquon's going to have some problems.
Right.
So
No, I'm
yeah,
with you.
I'm I'm feeling excited about that, and I'm sure you saw the news about Rodgers.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
I I'm curious to see if he's going to retire.
I don't think
Because
he is. Would he go meet with them if he wasn't going to come back and play?
I think I think a guy like Aaron Glenn has enough class and courtesy to want to tell a man like, hey, you're fired face to face.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Rodgers actually went. I'm
Yeah.
surprised he went. Like if I thought he was on the way out, I don't think he would go. Normally he's just like goes into caves and hides, like literally.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, maybe you gotta watch that Aaron Rodgers documentary during the off season.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, man. I don't know who would sign him. Because listen, no one signed Cam Newton when he was, and granted, Cam was hurt and had injury concerns, but no one wanted to sign him because of his personality, because people thought he would be like a distraction and that he would wouldn't work as a backup because of all the attention he would bring. Aaron Rodgers is getting the same problem, I feel like. And he's a guy won't be in the league for another year, or will only be in the league for another year or two. Like, you can't plan to win a Super Bowl with him at this point in his career. I don't know who would be willing to take a chance on him, either as a starter or as a backup.
Well, he's not going to be a backup.
Yeah, I know that, and
He can't
that's the other
be.
problem.
He can't be. And secondly, I don't think he should.
I would retire.
No, Mike.
If I was Aaron Rodgers, I would retire.
Do you think he was even that bad this year?
I think he definitely showed a lot of signs of rust. He did not play as well as he used to.
No, I agree,
And
but
I think part of that it's a very bad. I think a lot of it is coaching, like in offensive schematics and things of that nature. But it was far from a great year from Aaron Rodgers.
No, it was definitely not a great year. I just think it was like a mid quarterback, like top 12.
Do you think he can win a Super Bowl?
Say that again?
Do you think he can win a Super Bowl the way he's playing? Because like the way I view it, if the answer to that is no, then like what's the point?
I don't know, man. Can the Raiders do what they did last year? And can the Raiders like run Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell out there again? I mean, we saw some bad quarterback play this year at times, and we got lucky with injuries, Mike. Now, this is one thing that was good about the NFL. Firstly, this year, you remember on the Friday show, out of like the 2 hours show, we would spend like 45 minutes to 50 minutes talking about fucking injuries.
Yep.
We barely talked about them this year. Yes, there were injuries, of course, it's the fucking NFL, but there wasn't as many injuries, I felt like. Now, your Panthers, different story, okay? But blame your physio staff. But the rest of us really didn't have that many injuries. Like, look at the Commanders. They had like fucking 4 injuries the whole year. No one missed games.
Eagles got a lot of luck too. Eagles did. I will say there are a couple teams that I felt like, if you want to talk about teams that got railed with injuries, Detroit, I think, is one that you can really point at and say, hey, we got screwed over. New Orleans is another one. I know the Saints are bad, but like, look, they literally lost every good player they have on their offense. So I think you can say them. Oh man, who else was beat up this year? Oh, the Browns. The Browns had a lot of injury concerns.
Yeah.
Granted, a lot of these teams are ass anyway, but like it doesn't help when your entire roster is going down. So yeah. But we didn't see any. I feel like the amount of stars we saw go down was less than normal. And I don't feel like a lot of these playoff teams were super impacted by injuries. outside of Detroit. And that's what you want to see.
Yeah, and the Detroit had really bad luck, and people are
Yeah.
saying like Detroit choked this year.
Well, here's the thing with Detroit. They didn't have so as a Panthers fan, I've studied this like to track who's taken the most injuries. Detroit didn't necessarily have a ton of injuries. They just had a large concentration of them at the worst time possible. And all those dudes pretty much went to IR. So
That's what
like
I'm saying. And you
yeah,
lose like Aiden Hutchinson's probably their best player,
right.
and you lose him. And then also, I just was cautioning the whole year with Detroit. I know like everyone was vibing and they covered every spread like they've done like the last 3-4 years, which is insane. Even when they were losing games like 1-6, they were covering every spread. But you do have to peak. Like there is a marathon. You don't want to do like what the Chiefs did this year and 2 years ago, where you're playing below average. You don't want to do that, but there is a little bit of a marathon vibe, and Detroit never really got that memo. That would be
Yeah.
my only criticism of Dan Campbell. But like, secondly, like the choking stuff from them, that really got under my craw, Mike.
No, I didn't feel like they choked. I just felt like their team just, just ran. I don't want to say ran out of gas, but just kind of like couldn't overcome the amount of defensive injuries they had.
Yeah, there's like
And you could
seven,
see that
eight
in the
starters out, like for
right,
with
and that all
ACL.
came after week 10. Like if they had taken these injuries early and like you could plan for it and get some of those guys back coming into the playoffs, that would have been good. But like they took them all after week 10, and when you're doing that, it's not setting you up for success long term.
Like that, like you said, because Aiden Hutchinson went out like what, week 5, week 6 after the Cowboys game, think week 4, whatever. They were able to get to Darius Smith at trade deadline, and obviously, like that's not elite, but at least that's someone who can win a few one-on-one battles. Like
Right.
you said, like there was nothing they could prepare for some of these injuries. There was an absolute onslaught, and they also
Yeah.
turned the ball over like fucking 4 times against the Commanders. So if
Right.
you do
That didn't
that,
help.
you're not going to win any games. Like.
But I still feel like the defense. I'm pointing to the defense that gave up 38 points. Well,
Yeah, because if they got to stop, like that Detroit offense would have got some momentum.
yeah.
And changed the game flow. I don't even want to use game script anymore. Game flow, a little bit. But yeah, man. Any last thoughts on the Super Bowl? I know you need to wake up early.
No, I'm good, man. This was a great year for you guys. I hope you all enjoyed it. I definitely made a ton of money this year. I hope you all can say the same. And yeah, I look forward to next year.
Yeah, Mike, appreciate it. Yeah, next year, I don't know your schedule, but we should definitely try to do the show again.
Yeah.
Definitely want to give you some monetary reward for that, or some way. It would be nice definitely to do the show next year after the Sunday night games, like, because that's fucking fun.
Yeah, that's always
Um,
fun.
hopefully not too many walks of shames. What was after
The
divisional round week,
championship round.
but yeah, oh
Yeah.
geez. But then again, like,
No, that was the
even
divisional
again,
round. You're right.
championship round, did I really feel bad? Because
It was divisional.
yeah, the divisional one I felt bad about. The championship, I just felt like it is what it is. Like I felt like the Commanders put up a pretty damn good fight against the Eagles. Like I felt like I know like you could say this about every fucking NFL game. I felt like if 3 or 4 plays were different, the Commanders could have fucking pushed them and maybe could have pulled something. With the Chiefs, Bills, it is what it is. Like this Chiefs team was, I don't know, man. I just don't think it's a good team. Like,
They had a lot of things go their way.
I just think 10-7, 9-8, like you said, was really kind of the threshold. And
Right.
I kind of even agree with that about like the Steelers. Like, obviously, like the Chiefs are going to whip the Steelers' ass because they have the better quarterback. But this AFC was stacked this year. And the NFC with the Lions and Eagles, it was enjoyable. But hopefully next year, your Panthers will be better. I wouldn't mind seeing my Vikings take a dice roll on Aaron Rodgers. But I'm going to have to think about what you said about Aaron Rodgers, though, because I'll tell you the last thing before you go. I don't really agree with your assessment on him, but there's two things that I agree with your assessment on. First thing, and this has to be settled, he did get more durable and more athletic the second part of the season. But then again, like, they're playing shit teams and they were already out of the playoff race. So grain of salt, massive. But he did look more durable. He did look more athletic. But one thing you said earlier in the
I agree
year,
with
which
that.
was true, every single time he took a hit, the fucking drives just ended. And they would have good rhythm
Yeah.
sometimes too. They would have one drive a game where there was perfect rhythm, like the best drive you'll ever see. And then, like, he takes a hit, like you said, and the fucking drive's over. Like, throw your hands up, like, we're going home. And
Right.
the second thing, here's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about him in the red zone. And maybe that's play calling because, listen, we know the coaching there was non-existent. Like, we don't want to give him too big a pass, but I really do think they would have been better if the coaches were just locked out of the building after, like, week 4, after Salah went. But yeah, I'm worried about him in the red zone. That's why I think maybe you're right, and I'm overlooking it. But like 20-20, I felt like he was actually a fucking train this year. As crazy as it sounds,
Maybe
but in the red
toward
zone,
the
he was
end.
fucking bad.
I just don't know what team he's gonna want to go to that is in or what team that is a championship contender will take him. Like, what team is he gonna want to? It's like, what team is he gonna want to go to that will also want him? Where's the match happening on Bumble here?
Yeah, I know. Is he gonna humble himself?
Right. Like, and I think that's why the Jets aren't bringing him back.
I know. And he wants, that's the thing, man. That's the thing. He's going to have to lower his standards and he's going to have to let other people call the shots. But yeah, man, there wasn't much to say about the Super Bowl. It was domination and it was a long time coming. All right, Mike, I'll let you go, man.
Yeah. All right, man. Have a good night.
Yo, have a good one, Mike. And before everyone goes, I got Mike off here. Thank you for the good year. Thank you for everyone who shared the videos. Thank you for everyone who got on Patreon. I'll still be betting soccer on there. If you're in the Discord, you can stay in throughout the whole offseason. No problem. I know you guys like betting NBA and MLB. Let's get this money. No, dude, Cody, we made money, man. We made money. Let's get this money, man.